Hi, it's Charlie giving you Wednesday's video. I hope you're very well. Could this be the trade of the year? So what we're looking at here is a chart of the dollar index. And when I say trade of the year, it doesn't mean to say you buy or sell something right now and then hold it to the 31st of December. It's just could what I'm going to show you here today be a really nice trade, like what a really nice, maybe from a risk reward perspective, or the amount of pips, however you want to measure it. Then could it be a really good trade? Could this be a trade of the year type trade? So let's have a look at this dollar index. So I've put this on to a weekly chart, and as you can see, since February of last year, the dollar index came down and has started to trend down. Now, prior to that, as you can see, in the previous years, it was generally going up. I mean, it will move up and down, but as you can sort of get an idea of what goes on. If I take you out to a monthly chart, maybe that would be a bit easier. So looking at a monthly chart, you can see that generally speaking, the dollar index has been going up for the last 10 years. And so at the moment, this is maybe just a bit of a pullback looking at the monthly chart. So let's take this into the weekly. Let's dissect this and then see where a trading opportunity might actually be. So if we go back to this weekly chart, I've put on a bit of a channel here. So I've taken put a trend line down across these lows down here, and then I've just copied it across and then just taken it across these tops here, not from this one right up here. I would put one up there if price was coming up, but not at this stage. You sort of have one here, but if I wanted to put one up there, I could copy this across if it's going to let me do it. There we go. And I could have one up there as well, but I'm just going to mess the charts up if I do that right now. No need, so I'll leave it as it is. So we've got this downward sloping channel. Now, downward sloping channels doesn't mean that price is going to stay in a downward sloping channel forever. And so I'm just posing to you, okay, it's within this weekly channel, but we can see it's getting very, very close to this lower trend line here, which if I take you down to a daily chart, you can see where I've put that on across these lows here from the beginning of this year, and so it's getting closer towards that zone there. So if it came down maybe to that zone, could it be that it gets a pretty decent bounce maybe from there, and that's a tradable opportunity to the upside to trade it within this channel, going back to the channel line, and it could come all the way back up to the upper trend channel line, and who knows, maybe if it gets up to there, then wants to go for a breakout. So what does that actually mean? Well, we'll go to that in a minute. So the potential could be that it comes, maybe if it comes down to this lower trend line, that we get a nice bounce all the way back up to the trend, to the upper trend channel line here, which would be a buying the dollar, which would be effectively selling the euro dollar or the pound dollar or any of those currencies against the dollar in essence. Unless you thought that the dollar index is going to break this trend line and carry on down within this channel. Okay, so if we go back to the monthly charts, you can see what I'm talking about there. So is it going to carry on within this channel? Although the channel is fairly steep to the downside, could it continue down again? And then you would be buying the euro dollar or buying the pound dollar. Okay, so either you're going to take a view, whether it's not my job to tell you what to do. My job is just to sort of lay it out for you to play it out. So it's giving you some food for thought right now because of where the dollar index is, and I'm going to go into the euro dollar in a second as well to give you a different another thought process here, because this is the dollar index itself. You can obviously trade with so many brokers these days directly the dollar index, or you can actually trade one of the major currencies against the dollar. So that's where we're at. So you're either going to take a view whether you think that the dollar's going to carry on coming down, and can it break this line, or you think it's actually going to do a sizable bounce. And this is the thing: if it breaks down, then there could be a decent run because it could run all the way down to these lows from the beginning of this year. Or if it bounces, there could be a really nice run because we could run all the way up to this trend line. Bear in mind, this is a weekly chart, so there's quite a lot of movement potential here. So if I now take us to the euro dollar, now we have to inverse whatever I've just been saying there with regards to the dollar index. Now, the euro dollar has, on the weekly chart here, you can see it's in an upwards channel. See, the dollar index has been coming down itself, means the euro dollar is going up. So we have to flip everything upside down, basically. So therefore, you've either got a view that like I've just said, the dollar is going to continue to weaken, and like I just showed you on that other chart, if it continues to weaken, then you'd be expecting this euro dollar at some point to break out of this declining trend line here, which it's already reached its trend line, and you think it's either going to break out there and maybe come up to its highs of the year. Remember, I said the dollar index would therefore get down to the lows of the year. Or you think that actually this is a great time to sell, and that there could be a really good risk reward to the downside here. So we really are at a really nice point here if you're looking at the dollar index to say, wow, there's a lot of potential in one direction or another. Then it's just a case of forming your own view and whether you think the dollar is going to come roaring back with the US economy as everything's opening up and all the stimulus measures coming through, US economy doing well, and that could benefit the dollar if you're in that camp. Or you could be in the other camp where you think, well, actually, they've got a lot of debt. They've got these twin budget deficits now, and so you think maybe the dollar's going to decline. So it doesn't really matter whether you want to be which side you're on. It's just a trade. But if the trade that you take works out, it could be a good one. So if it does come down, then there's plenty of scope for this euro dollar to work its way all the way down to this trend line. And maybe, because this is quite a steep upwards facing channel, break down through that trend line. So the potentials for that. The opposite is that this declining trend line here, I'll go to the daily chart in a minute, that actually maybe you think, oh, actually the dollar's going to continue to weaken, and so maybe you wait for a breakout of this trend line. So if we go to the daily chart, you can see it's hit this pretty much. It's not quite hit, but it's getting close. It's got close to this trend line up here within this channel that I've put on the daily charts here. So, and it's having a reaction as we speak here on the daily charts. So it's not a bad area if you were a bear on the euro dollar, then you're wanting to short, well, it's really not a bad zone. If you're a bull and you want to be long, then you might be wanting to wait for a breakout, whatever. So there you go. So some food for thought there for a potential trade of the year, because we're talking bigger picture time frame here, and then it's just a case of you looking at the technicals and saying, okay, I can see the argument for whichever way it might break or go, but certainly there's scope there, depending on which view you have. Doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, doesn't really matter, does it? So it's just a trade, but if the trade that you decide to take works out, there could be a really nice amount of pips or risk to reward there because of that bigger picture at play. Hope that's given you some food for thought this week. I shall be back in touch with you on Saturday. Take care for now.